What's up guys, DarkLogic here, back again to do another Attack on Titan manga review. If you're thinking it's been a while since you've seen me, then you're right, it has. I made an update video to fill you guys in on why I've been away for so long, so you can check that out in the description if you want to. For now, let's get into this review. Now before I go any further, as always, I gotta warn you guys that this video is gonna contain spoilers, so if you haven't read the latest chapter, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Welcome to my review of Attack on Titan chapter 127. So before we continue, I just wanted to give a big shout out and a thank you to all the people who commented on my last video, which was my update video. I haven't made a video for a while, but you guys are amazing. You guys are too kind, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for such a warm welcome back. I was so worried nobody would care about this channel anymore, but you guys, all your comments just made me so happy and so much more excited to start making these videos again, and I'm just so grateful and flattered that you guys care so much about this channel. I really needed to hear all that. So thank you so much for your wonderful comments. You guys are so kind. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you guys so freaking much. Okay, I'm done gushing. Let's move on. Now, I know you're probably anxious to get to the latest chapter, but before we do, I want to do a quick recap on everything that's happened in the past several chapters that I've missed. I don't want this to take too long, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this part of the video, but I want to go ahead and touch on some of the big, literally colossal events that have happened in the story since I've been away. In my previous video, the update video that I alluded to earlier, I asked you guys to comment on what it is you wanted to hear me talk about the most. So I'm going to include your comments and answer your questions at the end of this video, and make sure to touch on everything you guys asked me to talk about in the previous video. So as of this recording, the chapter is out. I haven't read it yet because I knew it was going to distract me from focusing on doing this recap portion of the video, because if I read it first, that's just be all I'd be thinking about. It'd be really distracting. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this video. Now, if you'd rather skip this section and go right to the review of the latest chapter, Chapter 127, that is perfectly fine, and you can go ahead and do that by skipping ahead to the time on the screen right now, or you can click on the timestamps that I've included in the description. That will take you straight to my review of Chapter 127. So if you choose to do that, then I will see you there. And for the rest of you, let us begin. So leaving off at Chapter 119, which was the last chapter I reviewed, Zeke used the power of his shout to finally turn all the people who had drank his spinal fluid wine, which I am now calling Guiter Lesage. Look that up in Google Translate, into Titans, which unfortunately means that Pixis, Nile, and a number of other characters are now mindless Titans and, well, basically dead. That also includes Falco, whose Titan is freaking hilarious. Falco Titan, of course, almost ate Reiner, but Reiner being all hard and crystally and stuff, he decided that Porco looked a lot tastier. I wonder if he tastes like bacon. Gabby decides she wants the Attack on Titan fan base to like her even more, so she shoots Eren in the neck, successfully severing his head from his body, which then hilariously lands right in Zeke's hand. Like baseball. Touching. Next, in Chapter 120, we appear to have entered another plane of existence, my friends. What the hell is this? Well, this is the Paths. You know that rather abstract concept we've been hearing about throughout the story? It appears this thing called the coordinate actually exists in a physical place, or at least a physical representation of what its existence might look like. There is this giant beam of light or electricity shooting up from the ground and stretching out across the sky in all these different directions, which of course these are the paths that connect the coordinate to all living aliens. In this chapter we are also introduced to the founder Ymir. Finally we get to see who this Ymir really is, and apparently she is just a little girl, much like how we saw her in the storybook. But she is covered in dirt, her clothes are torn, her eyes are all shaded out, and we find out that Ymir is actually not this great and powerful leader. She is actually literally a slave to whoever possesses the power of the founding Titan.
What?
After Zeke awkwardly and unnecessarily touch their heads together, they are transported to Aaron's memories, where Zeke discovers that Grisha did not in fact raise Aaron in the same way he raised Zeke, as he had previously assumed. He also found out that his father was extremely regretful for what he had done to him. In chapter 121, there comes a point when they are going through these memories, when the line between the memory and Aaron and Zeke's separate reality begin to blur. And this, my friends, is the moment in Attack on Titan that terrifies me more than anything else that's happened before. There is a moment when Grisha appears to be looking at adult Aaron while speaking to Aaron as a child, in that famous scene where he shows Aaron the key to the basement for the first time. I don't know how Isayama did this, but just the way Grisha's facial expressions are drawn were already freaking me out. And then we see the full scene of Grisha's attack on the Reese family, where we learn that he, in fact, did not just attack them. In fact, he didn't want to attack them. He literally couldn't do it at first. But then who talks him into doing it? Aaron. Our very own adult Aaron from the future is speaking to Grisha in the past, demanding that he go through with it. After Grisha kills the Reese family and steals the Founding Titan power, he is distraught, screaming into the sky, "Are you happy, Aaron?" Grisha then looks up to see Zeke standing in front of him. He gets up and embraces him, apologizing for what a terrible father he was, and telling him he loves him, and also telling him that he has to stop Aaron. This was by far the most intriguing and scariest part in the story so far. Yes, even scarier than the Wall Titans, and I'll definitely have more to say about this later on. Continuing on, the trip down memory lane ends abruptly, leaving Zeke shocked and dumbfounded by Aaron's revelation, and it is confirmed basically that the Attack Titan has the power to transcend time. Zeke then commands Ymir to initiate his euthanasia plan, and the chapter ends with Aaron running towards her to try and stop her, while Zeke is telling him it's no use. Moving on to chapter 122, this is the chapter where we get the story of the founder Ymir. I have to admit I found this to be very strange at first, this whole story, but after reading it a second time, this is certainly one of the most fascinating and possibly important chapters of the entire series. We find out that Ymir was born into slavery, presumably about 1800 years ago. She was blamed for letting a pig get away, and subsequently punished by being chased through the forest while people hunted her with bows and arrows. Wow, that's messed up. She stumbles upon a giant tree, and before I continue on, I just want to say that I knew it had something to do with those dang trees. I've got a video about the forest of giant trees and how it could be tied to the Titans. I mean, come on, they're giant trees. They have to have something to do with the Titans, really. She walks into a tree, and then the first Titan is created. Maybe not the first, but the first as far as the history that we know of in the story. Now, it doesn't look like my theory about the Titans being created through science is true, because this is clearly set in a time, it's more like medieval times or whatever. Clearly they don't have the technology at this point, so my theory that the Titans were created through scientific experimentation seems to be debunked. But what is happening here is equally fascinating and 100 times more disturbing. Anyway, she stumbles upon this giant tree and goes inside an opening in its trunk, and after falling into what appears to be a hole filled with water, is transformed into the first Titan, the founding Titan. Now, before she transforms, she appears to be taken over or infected by this strange creature. It almost looks like a nervous system. I had always assumed that this sort of imagery was of a nervous system, because the spine was so significant to Titans being inherited and all that stuff. Clearly whatever is in humans that turns them into Titans exists in the nervous system and in the spinal cord. But now we have this image of this thing that like comes up and it attaches itself to her and goes into her body. Perhaps some kind of parasite or something, I don't know. But I get the feeling this is a thing. This is like not some kind of abstract imagery. This is a physical creature, a physical something that has imbued itself into this human child. So perhaps this is not just a part of a Titan's anatomy, perhaps it is something else. Maybe even something with its own consciousness and goals. We've heard before that the Titans have their own will, essentially. So maybe this has something to do with that. The humans that possess the 9 Titans don't just possess this weird power. What if they're infected by like some kind of parasite of some kind? Something that changes their anatomy and maybe even affects their minds. In fact, we know it does affect their mind because Eren is clearly affected by the Attack Titan's desire for freedom and its need to push forward and fight. And Reiner, who is the Armored Titan, coincidentally just can't freaking die. I don't know, maybe there's something to that. This definitely warrants further discussion, but we have to move on. So Ymir, the founding Titan, is born. She is very, very scary looking, with ribs sticking out and a skull for a face. Ymir, though now a powerful Titan, continues to be a slave to the Eldian king for some reason, and she, just as was shown in the scrolls Grisha had examined while in the Eldian resistance on Marley, did indeed build roads, bridges, and cultivated their lands. She also helped them in their battles against Marley. So it appears that the stories on both sides were true. Surprise! I'm not surprised. The king was so pleased he decided to go ahead and get her pregnant. Oh yeah, that's cringy. But what that does give us is an image that feels very reminiscent of the scene with a pregnant Historia sitting outside in a rocking chair. Ymir ends up having 3 children with the king. One day, someone tries to assassinate the king, but Ymir sacrifices herself to save his life. Afterwards, the king commands his 3 daughters to eat the body of their own mother in order to inherit her Titan powers. Ew, gross. Creepy. Ew, jeez. Horrifying. And instructs them to pass on the tradition indefinitely into future generations. Fun. And in this scene we learn that Ymir's 3 daughters were the people that the 3 walls are named after. Maria, Rose, and Sina. Eren then, embracing Ymir, comes to be the one person that tells her for the first time ever, probably, that she actually has a choice. At the end of the chapter, we see this weird spinal cord thing again connecting Eren's head back to his body and starting to form the Attack/Founding/Warhammer Titan. What I also find interesting about this is that despite the fact that Ymir was an adult when she died, the version we see of her when she interacts with Eren and Zeke is of her still as a child, in the same form she had when she stepped into that tree before becoming a Titan. It's almost as though who she used to be was somehow trapped in this place when she was taken over by the Titan power or whatever that spine creature is. So if this creature or whatever attaches itself or imbues itself into a host's spinal cord and nervous system, I guess we now know why it is that you need to specifically ingest a person's spinal fluid in order to become a Titan. Very interesting. Tell me what you guys make of this in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, and we will talk more about this later on. In the next chapter, we are given a flashback where they eat ice cream, and Levi saves a little kid from getting mobbed for stealing his coin purse. He's also mistaken for a child himself and offered a lollipop, which he looks extremely confused by. And that is an image I will never be able to get out of my head, but it is hilarious. The group speaks with Azumabito about stuff that I'm sure is important, but we'll get back to that. After that, there is a moment where Eren asks Mikasa basically to admit that she has freaking feelings for him. I mean, come on, it's obvious. But she's too chicken to answer, honestly, so opportunity lost. They all get drunk and pass out together, and after that we are shown a series of scenes laying out the events that led to Eren going down this road and what has happened since then. Mikasa thinks to herself, wondering that if she had made a different choice that night, when he was pretty much asking her if she had feelings for him, if things would have been different now. At that moment, the most insane thing that has ever happened in Attack on Titan, the thing that we've been leading up to ever since the end of the first season, we all knew this was gonna happen eventually, but I almost can't believe it with my own eyes. The Wall Titans have now been brought to life. And not just the Shiganshina Wall Titans, all the Titans. And just as Armin is starting to figure out what's going on, Eren uses the power of the founder to address all the subjects of Ymir at once. We see Armin, Mikasa, Reiner, and a bunch of other characters have a moment where they flash into the alternate plane where the paths exist as they collectively hear Eren's voice. And he announces to all of them that he plans to use the Wall Titans to destroy everything and everyone beyond the island of Paradis.
What?
Holy crap, guys. So, okay, in the next chapter we see Annie's father. Reiner is being a big baby, but Gabby grabs that big freaking gun and is like, I got this, bruh. Mikasa, Armin, and Jean have got Falco. Armin's like, this stuff's gone too far, and I agree. Armin is my boy, yo. Connie wants to feed Falco to his mom. We'll get back to that. The freshly made, hot right out of the oven, People Titans start attacking everybody as expected. Niall bites the dust, Gabby does her best Sasha impression, Shadis pops up in all the chaos, and what is left of the Survey Corps starts fighting off the Titan horde. Then, at the very end of this chapter, who do we find out is back? It's Annie! This is the moment so many of us have been waiting for. You know, another moment. She's been hiding in that crystal for years, and now she's finally back in the story. This calls for a drink of that delicious, Zeke-flavored alcoholic beverage. Goûter du sage. Cheers! Next is chapter 125. Everybody's freaking out, people are dying, people are hurt. Hitch is doing okay though, and our old friend Annie manages to track her down and get her to help her out. This is the chapter where we learn the truth about Annie's father, and that he was kind of a big bag of, wieners. We find out that Annie, like Reiner, was another product of an affair between an Eldian and a Marleyan. She was abandoned by her parents and taken in by the man she now calls her father, but not because he cared about her or anything like that. He just wanted to train her to become a warrior so that he himself could have a better life as an honorary Marleyan. However, in the end, it seems he regretted his decision, realizing when it was time for her to leave for Paradis that he actually does care about Annie, and all he wanted was for her to return home as soon as possible. That all the stuff he trained her for, all the stuff he taught her, it didn't matter. It didn't matter in the end because deep down, the last minute he realized he actually does have a heart after all, I guess. Great timing, Dad. So, all the Eldians in the internment zones are all rightfully freaked out because of the whole, Eren destroying the world thing. Annie's father tries to warn the Marleyan guards, but they do not want to listen. Now back on Paradis, apparently Connie has stolen Falco away with the intention of feeding him to his Titan mom and turning her back into a human. Armin decides to go after him and try to convince him not to. Mikasa seems a little lost and asks him what she should do, and Armin's like, figure it out yourself, holy snap, bruh! Flock's still around, doing his thing, shooting whoever he feels like so he can pretend he's a real man. He also tells Jean and Mikasa that Levi and Hanji are dead, but none of us really believe that, am I right? And lo and behold, at the very end of the chapter, we see Hanji alive and well with Levi, who is alive but not so well. She approaches Peak and discounts Shadis to form a truce, I forgot his name, and team up to stop Eren. In the next chapter, chapter 126, we see how Hanji survived and saved Levi. Levi wakes up after Eren does the thing and doesn't even care that his body is totally wrecked. He's just like, where is that mofo beast Titan? I'm gonna eat him for breakfast. I don't care if I'm missing my fingers. So Levi and Hanji join forces with Peak to stop Eren, and then we get to see what everybody else is doing. Some people are actually sleeping through all this. What the heck, Reiner? You really don't give a frick anymore, do you? Connie and Falco finally make it to Renko Village, and Armin and Gabby show up just in time to try and stop him. Armin then decides to do this really dumb thing where he tries to jump into the Titan's mouth like, no, I will sacrifice myself in place of the boy. Holy giant Titan barf ball, man. Stop trying to kill yourself. I'm so tired of Armin and his freaking I'm not Erwin, so I suck pity party. You're smart. You've done a lot of important stuff. You're like the smartest character in the story. Supposedly Zeke is supposed to be smarter than you. I just don't see that. But anyway, you're the second smartest character in the story, supposedly. Give yourself some credit, man. Jeez. Anyway, That apparently works though, I guess, and Connie decides, maybe I won't feed Falco to my mom after all. After that, Mikasa gets her scarf back from that weird stalker of hers. Flock announces to the people, a new era of Eldian rule has begun. Connie and Armin find Annie scarfing down a ridiculous amount of pie and run off with her, leaving poor Hitch all alone with even more pie. Before the chapter ends, Yelena and Onyakapon are nearly executed by Flock, but they are saved by Peak and get the unenviable experience of riding in her lovely giant mouth. At the end of the chapter, we leave off with our new, somewhat ragtag group of heroes whose goal is to stop Eren from destroying the world. Cause almost everyone except the Jaegerists now have that goal. Connie, Armin, Mikasa, Annie, Gabby, Falco, and Reiner are there. Then we've also got Hanji, Levi, Peak, and Captain Guy, whose name I literally can't remember for the life of me right now. Sorry, dude. Guess you're not that important. So that's the end of chapter 126, and that was my brief recap, at least I hope it was brief, of the events that happened in the chapters that have come out since I made my last review. I hope that wasn't too long. I tried to make it as short as possible without leaving out anything too important. Obviously I wasn't able to cover everything, but I will talk more about some of this stuff after the review of chapter 127. I'm gonna have a poll at the end of this video, and I want you guys to tell me what it is you want to hear me talk about the most. But this time, whatever topic gets the most votes, that's going to be the subject of my next discussion video. So let me know which one of these events you think deserves its own video and want to hear me talk about more by selecting your preference in that poll at the end of this video. Now finally, let's move on to the review of chapter 127. But first I have to read it. So I'm gonna go do that real quick and then we shall continue the video. Alright guys. I just read chapter 127 and wow, this is probably one of my favorite chapters. Now it might seem like not a lot happened in this chapter, but I just think it is so fascinating how everything has turned out. And I love that Isayama has taken all these characters and teamed them up and put them all in the same space together, forcing them to confront the things that they have done to each other. I find this endlessly fascinating. This is so intriguing, and I also feel like Attack on Titan has come to have a pretty good message, a pretty good moral to this story that we see pretty much laid out in this chapter. So we've got Armin, Mikasa, Hanji, Levi. Okay, well he's just kind of sleeping through all of this, so but he's there. Annie, Jean, Connie, Captain Magath. Ha! I remembered his name. And it's not even mentioned in this chapter I just read. Go me. Gabby, Falco, Peak, Reiner, Yelena, and Onyakapon. Did I get everyone? I think that's everyone. So we've got this very unlikely sort of ragtag group of people whose collective goal is to stop Eren, who was once the protagonist of the story. Now it seems he's become the antagonist. But really, how many times have we even seen this sort of thing? In a conventional story, you almost never see the antagonist and the protagonist sitting down and having a little chit-chat and talking about their problems together. I don't even feel like we have an antagonist and a protagonist in this story anymore. Nobody's really the good guy anymore. Nobody is really the bad guy. Except I would argue Eren and the Jaegerists. I mean, mass murder is pretty bad. Destroying the whole world is basically like every supervillain's MO, but I love how Isayama has gotten all these characters sitting down together, basically forcing them to have a little group therapy session. But anyway, let's back up a bit and start from the beginning. So, in the opening of this chapter, we have what appears to be Jean's imagination, fantasizing about what life might be like if he just gave up fighting the Jaegerists now, and just laid low, hoping to secure some kind of safety in the future of his life, and possibly even have a happy family, wondering if he could live with himself if he went down that path. What's interesting too is that, if you remember, that was not too far from Jean's original position. In the beginning, when he joined the military, his goal was to get into the military police so he could live a cushy life in the interior, far away from all the fighting. But when he realized the weight of the situation, he decided to join the Survey Corps instead, because deep down he actually does have a conscience. So then Hanji comes along and breaks him from his thoughts. He seems to consider ignoring her at first, but ends up coming outside and meeting with her. He, Hanji, and Mikasa sit down and have a discussion where she begins debriefing him on the situation. She reveals to him they allied themselves with the Cart Titan and the Marley forces in order to stop Eren, and she tells them that mass slaughter is wrong. Thank you, Hanji, thank you. Those are my sentiments exactly. She asks Mikasa if she will help them to stop Eren, and to her apparent surprise, Mikasa agrees immediately. I imagine she was expecting some pushback, but thankfully Mikasa is starting to kind of come into her own. Still, she's not wearing that scarf, even though she got it back. So clearly she does still care about Eren, but does not support him enough to continue wearing the scarf that symbolizes their relationship. Jean is not so sure though. Although he did not choose to ignore Hanji, he questions whether it's even a smart choice to stop Eren when it comes to the survival of the island itself. He says even if they stop him, if the hatred of the world continues, it's only a matter of time before the island and all its residents are wiped out. They argue back and forth for a minute until Hanji shouts, "You can't just massacre everyone. Like hell there's a good reason to ever do that. Thank you, Hanji, again. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what I've been saying this whole time. People ask me, do you agree with Zeke or do you agree with Eren? Dude, why does it have to be either or? It can't be. They're both messed up. They're both wrong. Dude, it can't just be one terrible way or another. I know that that's kind of an ongoing theme in Attack on Titan, but there has to be another way. There just has to be another way. Right now, many of our characters are operating under the assumption that in order to save one group, the other needs to be wiped out, and that's just not true. It doesn't have to be. If everyone would just slow down and stop freaking out, maybe we could get somewhere. But anyway, as I said before, I never agreed with Zeke, and I definitely don't agree with Eren. I'm with Armin and Hanji. I believe there can be other solutions. As long as they can all stop from just killing each other, there's always gonna be another way. And maybe one of those could be not just killing each other in the first place, you know? Anyway, we'll get into that more later on, but because these characters have a lot more to say to each other, so let's move on. Thank you, Hanji, I love you. There is a reason you are one of my favorite characters, and it's not just your eccentric and endlessly entertaining personality. So in the next panels, Hanji is talking about all the mistakes she made that led up to this point, and we get these super interesting visuals that are very reminiscent of the moment Erwin had before he died, when he was talking to Levi about their fallen comrades. Speaking of Erwin, oh, there he is right there in the middle of all of them. Oh my god, this is so sad. Seeing Erwin's face again. Oh my god, I miss him so much. Yes, I was on Team Armin back in the day, but that doesn't mean I don't like Erwin. I love Erwin. He's still one of my favorite characters as well. But I really believe that Armin was the right choice back then, and I still believe that now. Even though the manga seems to be trying to hammer in the idea that Armin was the wrong choice and Erwin could have handled all of this a lot better, well, that may be true, but I still stand behind Levi's decision. I do think Armin is hopefully going to get his head out of his butt at some point and do something to help solve this situation. And Hanji's disposition right now is finally something that is helping to reinforce that belief. I feel like maybe Armin is just too consumed with guilt over the fact that he survived and Erwin did not, and so consumed by the fact that he cannot be the same leader that Erwin was, is preventing him from doing what I know he can do. He just needs to get some confidence, man. I know you can do it, Armin. I know you can. You survived for a reason. I made a whole video about it, dang it. Alright, anyway, moving forward. Team Armin and Hanji all the way, brah! There's also Mike there, and I think that's Moblet in the background. Oh man, I almost forgot about him. There's a woman there, I think that might be Petra. Oh, all these characters! I haven't seen them in so long. All of our fallen comrades, it's so sad. Then Hanji says, the time to stop the slaughter is now or never. And then we see Marco standing there. Oh man, Marco, I cry. So in the next scene, we've got all these characters I mentioned before sitting around the campfire. Things seem to be very awkward and uncomfortable for obvious reasons. And of course the characters can't just sit in silence. It's time for some drums. So Magath decides to kick things off by telling the Eldians that they are pieces of poop, basically. Hanji's just like, I just want some soup, yo. Also, I think it's funny that she's calling him Mr. General. Like, she can't remember his name either. Jean jumps in next and very passionately declares that Marley is stupid and also a-holes. Okay, but seriously, Magath seems to be hung up on the old mythology that Eldians are devils who have no inherent sense of justice. Jean argues that it was them who kept sending people to Paradis, turning them into titans, and thus it is Marley that are clearly the devils. Magath argues that the fact Eren is about to destroy the world right now is obvious proof that Paradis is a danger to the entire rest of the population of the entire world, and also willing to use that power to destroy it. Can't argue with that now, I guess. Jean comes back with bringing up the initial attack on Paradis by Reiner and Berthold, saying that if Marley had never done that, Eren would never have been pushed this far. Magath then jumps right off that shark, bringing up the crap that Eldia supposedly did 2,000 years ago, which, thanks to Ymir's backstory that we recently saw in chapter 122, seems to be true. But still, it was 2,000 years ago, man. How long you guys gonna keep a grudge? But once again, Hanji of all people is the voice of reason here. We saw that coming in season 1, huh? She makes the point that they are giving up their chance at creating a paradise for themselves in order to save everyone else on the entire planet. I mean, if they really wanted to, all they would have to do is sit back and let Eren do his thing, and then the only people left would be the people on Paradis, and they wouldn't have to worry about being destroyed by the rest of the world. At least until the world repopulates itself, people separate into different tribes and countries and factions, and the cycle starts all over again. Because humans are just... that's just what we do. Erwin said once that true peace will never exist as long as more than one human still lives. And he was right. As long as humans exist, there will always be conflict. That is the nature of human beings. That is the nature of having different people with different goals, values, and points of view. That is the nature of nature itself. Conflict is inevitable. It's how we deal with those conflicts that is truly important. Anyway, Hanji continues to say they've spent many months in the outside world and there's no way they can go back to being ignorant anymore. Annie then turns to Armin and Mikasa and asks them a tough question, whether they will be willing to kill Eren if it proves to be necessary. Mikasa, although she's on board with stopping Eren, seems reluctant to agree to kill him, if need be. Armin doesn't appear to like the idea much himself either. Annie is very doubtful that someone who would go this far would be swayed otherwise by a nice little chit-chat. And she's like, okay, what if we talk to him? And he refuses to stop. They still do not agree that they would be willing to kill Eren. Then Annie asks if they will try to fight them in order to save Eren's life. Mikasa gets mad and starts approaching Annie, but Annie holds up her hand and stops her with her Jedi powers. She then explains to them that the only reason she wants to stop Eren is to be reunited with her father and prevent him from dying in the mass slaughter, and doesn't really care about anything else. And she tells Mikasa they have no reason to fight until it comes down to that moment, if it happens. As we continue, Hanji explains their plan to make it to the harbor and take a flying boat to find the founding Titan. They seem to believe Yelena could help them find Eren, but she of course seems to have no intention to cooperate, as she was forced to come here by Captain Magath, against her own will. At this point, it is revealed that Yelena's backstory, how she claimed to be someone from another nation that was taken over by Marley, is a complete fabrication. Magath and Peak are aware of this, and Peak explains to the whole group the truth about Yelena. Yelena responds by basically attacking everyone else in the group and calling out everyone's stuff, throwing up everyone's dirty laundry and splattering it all over the table for everyone to see. She talks about how Reiner and Annie attacked Paradis, how Armin destroyed the port in Marley with his Titan. She brings up Jean, Connie, Hanji, Levi, and Mikasa's involvement in that attack. Even how Jean almost killed Falco with a thunder spear. She brings up how Gabby killed Sasha. I'm still sad about that. And apparently the only person who's dodged all this mudslinging is Falco and Onyokapon. They're the only innocent people there. Once she's done, Jean calmly asks Hanji for more soup, then turns to Yelena and thanks her for helping everybody work through their problems. That's when Yelena brings up Marco. And ain't no subject more touchy for Jean than that. We all know Marco was like Jean's best friend, and anytime anybody brings him up, he's like, bleh. Well, you know, he's like super emotional about it. But anyway, finally, the truth about what happened to Marco is put out there in the open and revealed to all. Annie and Reiner are suddenly forced to confront what they'd done. Reiner, though, takes full responsibility for the choice he made back then, telling them that Annie was just following his direction and expressing deep regret. And then a very important moment happens. Jean asks Reiner what Marco's last words were, and Reiner tells him that he said, "We still haven't talked yet." Jean has a sudden epiphany that if people would just slow down and talk to each other instead of just trying to kill each other, maybe less people would have to die. Gee, guys, really? Nobody thought of that before? Oh wait, somebody did think of that, didn't they? His name is Armin. Thanks, Armin. Armin's been saying this the whole freaking time. Why does nobody ever listen to Armin, dang it? No wonder he doesn't have any confidence. Nobody pays attention to him anymore. See, I told you, my boy was right all along. So this here, I guess we can say, is the big lesson of Attack on Titan. Talk before killing each other. Good message, Isayama. But no, seriously, all joking aside, this is something that happens all too often in real life. People, instead of having the hard conversations that we need to have, let their emotions drive their actions into doing pretty horrible things to each other. So this is actually a great message, a great moral within this story. And I was kind of hoping that it would come to something like this. I know, or at least I believe, Isayama had said before that it was never his intention or his goal to say anything with his story. He just wrote based on the character's emotions, but no matter what, every story has a message, intentional or not. It's just inevitable. So I'm really glad that Isayama is using his story to say what I believe is a good message and a very powerful message. He's so right. And this is the reason this is one of my favorite chapters in the story. This is the reason this is one of my favorite stories, and now I like it even more, because all of this has ended up coming to what feels like is actually a hopeful place out of all this chaos and destruction. There's just a tiny glimmer of hope, but that's all we need. As long as we have that, there is a chance for a better future. That's the moral of this story. Anyway, moving on, Hanji agrees with me, of course. She says it's not too late, and at the very least, all these enemies are able to sit around a fire and eat soup together without killing each other. That's progress. That's an accomplishment, and I am very proud of all of you. But of course, Reiner has to freaking ruin it though. His guilt is eating him up inside, and he just can't keep his mouth shut about Marco. He keeps going on about it until Jean can't take it anymore and jumps up on him and starts beating the living bananas out of him. Gabby jumps on Reiner to try to protect him as Armin and Connie pull Jean back, and then Falco and Gabby, these two poor innocent children in this group, and yes, Gabby is innocent, she is a child, she may have done and said some pretty bad things, but guys, let's be real, she's a kid. I know people don't like her, but let's lighten up on the Gabby hate a little bit. It's disturbing. Anyway, Jean needs a moment, so he goes into the woods to have a good little cry. Levi wakes up and is just annoyed that everybody's being so freaking loud. God, what does a guy gotta do to get some sleep during the apocalypse? Come on. The next morning, Jean gently awakens Gabby, telling her that he will help them, then wakes up Reiner. Not so gently, and our new crew gets on the move. Jean apologizes to Gabby because apparently I guess he kicked her on accident during all that commotion, but tells Reiner he cannot forgive him. Reiner seems to understand, and honestly, I highly doubt Reiner can even forgive himself. As they're on their way, Pete comes back from scouting and tells them that the harbor has been occupied by the Jaeger faction. That's a problem. And the chapter ends with an image of Flock looking rather menacing as he stands behind Kiyomi Azumobito, holding a gun and clearly holding her and her clan hostage. Wow, what a crazy chapter. Big shocking reveal at the end there. Really looking forward to where this is going. I love seeing these characters have these conversations, confronting each other over what they've done to each other, and yet they are still able to work together for their common goal. Really intriguing, really curious how this is all going to play out. I have a feeling it's not going to be all kumbaya while they're out there saving the world. We certainly saw that with Jean, but the fact that all of them, well, most of them anyway, were able to put all that aside and join together for a common goal is a really great message for the story to end up having. It's what needed to happen. It's what has to happen if there is going to be any real peace that doesn't involve killing literally everybody, obviously. And thank you, Isayama, for doing this. I think it's exciting, it brings me hope, not just for the characters in this story, but for humanity as well. Seriously, in a perfect world, if we could just talk and understand each other, things could be so much easier. But talking and understanding in and of itself is hard, and unfortunately, impossible in many cases. Humans are complicated and stubborn and can believe crazy things, but hopefully lessons will be learned and pave the way to a brighter future for everyone, both in this fictional story and in the real world. That is my hope for us all. So that's it for chapter 127. What do you guys think is going to happen next? I definitely think that Eren is going to lose this battle. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think that they're going to win. I think they're going to be able to beat Eren and stop him from destroying the entire world. Or maybe not. Who knows? I imagine Isayama could go either way. You never know. I have a feeling that Zeke and Yelena might get in the way a bit. They've still got their goals. Flock's getting pretty scary. I don't know what to expect from him, but I definitely think that they're going to find some other solution that doesn't involve either Eren or Zeke's plan. It doesn't have to be one or another. I very much believe that, and I think Armin is going to have a pivotal role. I think Annie is going to have a pivotal role in what happens next, as well as Falco. I think those three characters, the three of them are gonna do something important for a number of reasons. I've been waiting for Armin to do something for a long time. Some of you may know. Annie's been gone forever. She's got to do something important. And Falco's got the Jaw Titan now. So keep your eye on these three characters, I'm telling you right now. Okay guys, I must apologize, but I have run out of time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to your guys' comments that I was gonna read and reply to at the end of this video. This video ended up being way longer than I intended, big surprise, but I didn't want to delay this review. I want to stay as consistent as possible. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to separate that portion of the video into a part 2, which I will post next week. So I'll have another video that will just be me replying to your comments that you guys left me in my update video and talking about the things that happened over the past few chapters that you guys said you wanted to hear me talk about the most, that I originally promised you in this video. I think it'll probably actually be better this way because I'll have more time to discuss those topics at length instead of like trying to squeeze them into the end of a video that's already 40 minutes long. So, but in 1 week, not 2 weeks, but 1 week, 2 weeks is when I have my discussion video. I'll have that video for you guys. Again, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to them in this video, but check back here next Tuesday at 3 p.m. and I will have that for you guys. I'm also going to start working on my discussion video in a few days after I'm done with that, and that's going to be out Tuesday at 3 p.m. 2 weeks from now. And I want you guys to let me know what topic you want to hear me talk about the most. I want you guys to tell me what you think that discussion video should be about. I've got a poll in my community tab right now where you guys can go and vote for which topic you think I should talk about. Do you think I should talk about Eren and his big reveal, Ymir's origin story, Annie, the rumbling, Levi, Armin, or if there's anything else that's not on the list, you can leave in the comments below. So far, Eren is leading by a landslide, and that's something I'm really excited to talk about, but still, I want to hear from as many of you guys as possible. So go vote if you haven't already. I'll leave a link in the description for you, so go check that out. Again, make sure you come back for next week's video. Make sure you give this video a comment. If I like your comment, I might just include it in that video. So let me know what you think of this chapter. Let me know what you think of all this other stuff that's happened since chapter 120. If you enjoyed this video, of course, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that notification bell to never miss a video. Alright guys, stay safe, stay awesome, and I will see you next time. Peace.